Hi, it's Trevor from mycoachskating.com, and today just a really quick video to analyze the jump that's posted somewhere else on this page. Recently posted a video on the website from Michelle Lee that showed a class working on a counter entrance to an axle. And some of the subscribers saw that video but wanted to see a more advanced skater doing the counter entrance, just to see what it really looks like when a more advanced skater does it. So had one of my skaters tackle this, and again you can see the actual video on this page. This is a little bit of an analysis of this video of this skater, partly because I have a few things that I've been seeing quite a bit of lately and just wanted to comment on them so that everybody can see kind of how I look at an axle as right from the beginning. I know this is a double axle, but this is a great way to look at how we want to get our skaters doing single axles. And we've seen video of this skater before. This is a skater I've worked with a lot. So anyway, let's take a look at this, because there's just a few points that I really want to make here. You can see she's doing she's trying to set up to do a counter, but she really does a three-turn here. You can see the change of edge and then the three-turn. Okay, but that's fine. When we ask a skater to do the counter entrance, rarely are we looking for a perfect counter. It's just to try to get the feel of this. The first thing I'd like to have everyone notice is this skater really doesn't get a chance to push, right? She's on an edge, maybe creates a little bit of extra speed from the turn itself, right? Because you can actually press on the edge just a little bit in the turn. But in reality, that's not much push there. So I guess the point I'm making is that for coaches that really teach a big push into axle, this is sort of an argument against that as being necessary. Some coaches teach it as simply a step. I teach it often as a push, but I really want the hips to come forward. But again, that's not a critical part of the jump. If you really feel like that's the only way to do it is with a push or with just a step, please keep in mind that there are all the different possibilities skaters are being successful doing. So that's not really where the quality of the axle comes from. The quality of the axle comes from the edge on the ice, and it's kind of what I wanted to show here. The skater does a really good job of controlling the edge and pressing off the edge. Right now, let's just take a quick look at the edge. As the skater steps forward, she keeps moving forward through this edge, and you can see this edge deepen here. It gets really deep there, and then she starts to pivot through. If I take this back, as this edge is deepening, I'd like you to look at the free foot position. So you can see the free foot position is behind, so the free foot's not causing this edge to deepen at all. So she's creating the edge from pressing on the edge that generates the rotational energy for the jump itself. Let's look at her shoulders. Her shoulders right now, you can see, are in line with her skating foot, and the right shoulder comes forward a little bit here, but it's still not quite square. Her right shoulder's held back. You can see it's staying back throughout this entire entrance as that edge deepens. So again, the edge is not being created by shoulder rotation. And if you also look at the arms, you'll notice that the skater steps. The arms are pressed forward just a little bit more to the side and front. And then here the arms are relatively wide, but watch how narrow the arms are as they go by. So this skater's not using arms to also she's also not using her arms to create rotation. She is creating the rotational energy for this jump strictly from pressing on the edge properly, which is what we really want all skaters to do to create a really good axle. That's one of the things that seems to be lost when I attend a seminar presentation. Oftentimes it's not discussed where the real sort of fundamental aspect of an axle, what's really happening. Instead, I see coaches talk about having a long takeoff edge, or talking about the aspects of making it so the jump doesn't swing around. In other words, the foot doesn't come around, or the shoulders stay in a position we want. So they talk more about the methods of getting there, but often don't talk about the fact that this is all about edge control and the ability for a skater to push on the edge. And I think that we're very often, as coaches, pressured to get a skater working on an axle or trying to land an axle and trying to go for axles when they really haven't developed this kind of edge control, this ability to stand on an edge and without using their shoulders or their free leg or their arms swinging around, to make that edge deeper and press on it. And that's such a huge part of the jump and a huge part of how I teach it, that I think of this now every day, every skater that I approach with Axel. That's kind of the main focus. So let's just talk about sort of the methods to make this happen. The first one is, let's look again at the free foot. You can see the free foot right there is slightly inside the circle, and then she puts it right on the trace. So we used to talk about tracing a lot with figures, okay, but if you drew the circle back where the skating foot is going, the free foot is trailing right over that circle. That's a great way for the skater to be in position for having that free foot come forward, but it also minimizes the forces of rotation. So in other words, if this skate wasn't behind her like this, if it was out to the side a little bit, there would be more forces pulling it even more out to the side and creating additional rotation. And this is the error that I've been seeing a lot of lately as I've been giving Axel lessons, is when a skater steps forward, oftentimes they will sort of release this foot a little bit out to the side, and it causes, as the skating edge deepens, it causes the foot to go even more outside, and then the foot passes wide as it swings around. Watch this skate. Right behind the skating foot, right behind the skating foot. Now it's maybe slightly outside as she's got to bring it past right next to it. You can see how close those feet are passing each other. Very close. Okay, maybe a couple inches apart. Okay, and you can see the skaters turning internally rotation already to try to get to that sort of sideways karate kick position that I talk about. And we're getting the sideways takeoff in the lower body. You can see the hips are nicely sideways. Okay, this foot is back on the target line. So if I drew a line here from this foot in the direction that the skater's going, and then sort of created a wall along that line, that foot is on that line, and she's keeping it now on that line as she goes into rotation. You can see it's being pressed down right on that line, right to ankle contact. Taking this back again, when we see this skater, she's pressing on this edge, the foot's held in reserve right here. Notice the leg position. The upper leg is kind of pointed straight down at the ice. This is definitely a good, strong knee bend. Some skaters will have a little bit more forward body position, and this knee will, or the upper leg will be pulled back a little bit more, so the knee will be further back. That will also work, and I call this this position of sort of asking my skaters to sort of kick their butt as they step into it. And I have to talk about this a lot, particularly with skaters that are just learning Axel, because in waltz jump, a lot of skaters really learn to do a waltz jump with that free leg pulled out straight behind them. And I think that it comes from two things. One is sort of an old-fashioned teaching technique of having a skater step forward and have a straight leg behind them, and then swing a straight leg through and around, and then up into the jump to do a waltz jump. And I think that that's sort of an old-fashioned teaching method that is starting to go away, thank goodness, because it makes Axel that much harder for our skaters. Instead, we always want them to have this very collected position. Sometimes, again, the knee will be a little bit further back, but then the free foot tends to be higher, and you can see that the free foot for this skater reaches not quite as high as her hip, but that's a pretty good position right there to create a lot of energy, and yet that upper leg portion of the free leg is not pulled back too far. So the skater is in a position to really use that to help press on the edge. I was going to say the second reason that we see skaters have a straight leg, sometimes it isn't taught. Sometimes as coaches we just sort of let it happen. We have to be a little bit careful of that. When we're asking skaters to be on an outside edge when they're first learning to do waltz jumps, oftentimes they can't control their forward outside edge, and so they will automatically sort of go into this mini spiral position with their body forward and their legs really straight behind them, just in an effort to try to control that edge. And I think I really encourage coaches to not rush through that process. In other words, take your time getting the skater to be able to hit this position, even when you're teaching a waltz jump, as early as possible, so that you can avoid problems later with them feeling this natural urge to straighten that leg and sort of swing it around or straighten it to control the rotation of the edge. Teach them good edge control in the proper positions, and they will have it for life. And that's really, I think, a better way to approach the jump takeoff. All right. Got a collected leg. You can see the leg that comes through. It does straighten a little bit. It's not completely straight, but it starts to straighten as it goes through. Just the forces alone are going to make that happen. You can see that the skating knee is still, she's down in her skating knee all the way to the point where that foot passes. Now she's going to explode up, up, up out of the skating knee. That timing, that aspect of timing is another big issue with axles, and it's one of the key points that I have skaters look for, or coaches look for, and something I look for with every skater that is working on axle. I really like a skater that holds their free shoulder back. I really feel like with the free shoulder back, they have more control of this edge, and that's really what I'm focused on when I teach an axle. So I really like free shoulder back. I understand there's a lot of coaches out there that don't teach it, sort of teach a square step, shoulder square with a step, and I have seen skaters have a lot of success with that, particularly with skaters that really dip their body forward. But most of those skaters are still pulling back on their shoulder very heavily as they start to go into the jump. So I think that that approach to teaching it creates a jump that has a lot more movement, because the shoulders start out square and then have to get back to sort of this position where the shoulder is pulled back. You see their bodies drop forward oftentimes and then pull back. So I really like how this skater does this. Obviously I was very instrumental in teaching this skater this jump. So right shoulder back. I think the arms here are a little bit wide, but in reality that's fine because she brings it so narrow at this point. So the power movement forward is a narrow movement, and you can see it going at her target, right? She's jumping sort of this way again, going off in this direction. You can see the hands and head are still pointed in that direction. That's what allows the skater to use the sideways karate kick position, but still maintain a jump that has this flow. There it goes, up and through. She's sideways, immediately can turn over from the sideways position, and you can see the skater makes ankle contact. See her on her right side, very comfortably. You can see it landing right-sided, very much twisted. The skater has a pretty good air position in the sense of she's winding into her air position. She goes up, crosses the feet, we got ankle contact. You can see now that if we go to this position, her shoulders, although they're not directly down the same line as her skating foot here, they are kind of angled roughly in the same direction. They're probably about 40-45 degrees off from an angle with each other. That's pretty good. I know a guy right now working on triple axle who is not doing this at all. In other words, his foot position is neutral to his shoulders. It's at 90 degrees when he's rotating for triple axle, and he really doesn't have much of a chance right now until he starts to pull this foot down the line of his shoulders, or twist his shoulders so that it's going down the line. And you can really see this exaggerated in this skater right as she gets close to landing, right? This moment of landing, the shoulders are really twisted down the line of the foot so she can get the foot fully all the way around. And obviously this skater has a lot of experience with this jump, so she's already lifting the knee up and out. You can see the knee come up a little bit. Now the foot comes forward, and then the foot drives back for that nice standard landing look. If we go back one more time, kind of look at it holistically, she's pressing on this edge and really nothing is swinging around. She's just pressing on the edge, getting through, now driving it up, and now rotation, really winding into that air position, so she's really to the right on landing, which allows her more time to decelerate into the landing position. You can see the landing position the skater uses has the right or left shoulder kind of back, and again, landing positions are something that some landing positions look good on some skaters and some don't, and I think this is one of those things where coaches have to look for what works for their skater. One of the things to keep in mind is with the skater, really early on, we're looking for this and really trying to keep that free shoulder forward, skating shoulder back. And so I really like it when I'm starting to work with a skater, trying to get a skater to think of taking both hands into the circle to try to stop the shoulder rotation, or I'll say take your free hand, press it forward, and take your skating hand and press it back or into the circle, and try to keep the head into the circle. Obviously the skater does not need to keep her head into the circle. She does a great job of stopping it right at that point, and obviously again this is a jump she's very, very comfortable with. Okay, I hope that was helpful, kind of a way to look at axle and double axle, and just some of the things that I look for in sort of a bit of my theory for axle. And we'll have more axle videos coming up as well. Part of there's all kinds of drills that we can use to help skaters really work on this edge, this pressure, creating this pressure, And I'd like to be able to post a video on that sometime soon as well, because if we're going to talk about these things as being here's what you need to do and here's what you can't do, but then don't offer solutions in terms of drills and how to get a skater to feel comfortable pressing on this edge, then we really haven't given you much to work with. So there will be more videos on this concept of this edge. You can see already some ideas along those lines in the Michelle Lee videos. So, okay, I hope that was helpful. Take care. Thanks.